On the last episode of Menace, the Ken story, Ken goes back to his regular program after feeling like Mia had everything squared away with Rob. That all happened on a Monday. That Thursday, Ken decided to go over to Mia's after not being able to contact her via telephone. Once he was there, he found a note from Mia. Mia did not go to North Carolina to get the money from her aunt. She skipped town. Ken was so messed up that he talked to Hot Boy about it the next day. Hot Boy agreed to loan Ken the money, and he took it to Rob. Unfortunately, Rob had changed the terms. Rob accepted the $25,000 that Ken showed up with, but advised him that he owed him another $25,000 to pay the goons for killing Mia, since she skipped town and all. Believing that Mia was dead, Ken asked why would he even consider giving Rob the money. Rob's answer? Well, he had kidnapped the kids. And if Ken didn't pay him, he was going to kill them too. Basically, Ken was left with 1 week and very few options. So, he had to do what he had to do. And now, Chapter 25, No Boundaries. Narrated by Shandora Warren. All of that happened on a Friday. I had $4,987 in my bank account. So I had 9 days to come up with just over $20,000. But where was I going to get $20,000? My life wasn't set up like some others. I didn't have wealthy relatives that could just put the money up. Hot Boy was the closest thing I had, and I'm sure he didn't have another $20,000 just laying around. Even if he did, there was no way that I would have asked for it. I didn't have the type of credit or work history that could have gotten me a loan. Maybe I could have asked Mom to put the house up, but that created all types of issues in my mind. First of all, I didn't even want to tell Mom what was going on. She probably would have gotten stressed out and called the police. That is not the type of situation we were in. If Rob would have even thought the police were involved, he wouldn't have hesitated to kill the kids. I couldn't have taken that chance. Second, who's to say that the money would have even cleared in time? The last thing I needed was a bunch of red tape that would have prolonged the situation. Third, I didn't trust Rob. I would never have forgiven myself if I got Mom to put Grandma's house on the line and we ended up losing the house and the kids. I couldn't take that chance either. So when it came down to it, my options were few. I was always a man that was going to do what I had to do, and I wasn't switching up for that occasion. The situation caused me to think back to a conversation that I'd had with Kenny. It was about respect. We were down at the path smoking weed one day when Kenny started the conversation. He said, "Ken, you want to know why I do what I do? Because what you do matters. You just have to decide who it's worth mattering to. There are a lot of people out there that think I ain't worth nothing, and I might not be to them, but I matter to the ones that I want to matter to. They respect me, and that's enough for me." I remembered laughing and telling Kenny that he was high, but facing the possibility of losing the kids, I understood what he was saying. In Kenny's case, he was hustling for a few reasons. 1, he didn't want to be a burden. 2, he wanted to help Ma. And 3, he wanted to look out for me. A million people could have stood in the line and told Kenny that he was nothing, and he would have felt fine about that. You know why? Because he respected himself, Ma respected him, and I respected him. That was enough for Kenny. He didn't care about what anybody else thought. That's exactly where I was. I had to do what I had to do to get those kids back, at any cost. I didn't care who might have been affected by whatever I had to do. I didn't care what they'd think about me. Because in the end, I knew who it would matter to, and that was enough for me. Kenny, I finally understand it. I called Hot Boy and told him that I needed to be out of work for the entire next week. I had business to attend to. I woke up early Saturday morning and drove to a town that was about an hour away. I had been there several times. It was one of those places that me and Hot Boy used to frequent. It was way out in the country, a place with one stoplight at most. It was the type of place you go to when you want to be out of the way. I drove to my destination and sat in the car for a few minutes. I felt like my heart was about to beat out of my chest, but there was no turning back. I couldn't afford to turn back. The lives of the kids meant that I had to go through with it. And so I did. I calmly stepped out of my car and walked across the street. I was already wearing gloves. When I was close enough, I pulled my ski mask down over my face. I walked inside and locked the door. There was one lone person inside, an old man, the same old man who was always there. I approached the counter and showed him the gun. With absolutely no force, I said, "I just want the money." The old man fumbled with the cash register before finally getting it open. In an old, raspy voice, he said, "The store just opened, so I only have 50 $1 bills." I knew that wasn't really the case, but I let him give me the $50. "Okay," I said. "Put it in the bag." The old man took the money out of the cash register and placed it into the bag that I had opened in front of him. When he was done, I said, "Okay, now let's go and get the money from the back, the money that you keep under your mattress. And I already know what I'm talking about, so don't play with me." I could see that he was absolutely shocked that I had that information. But I had it. So like I said, don't play with me. The old man walked towards the back and I followed him. We went into a musty room that had a bed, a TV, a refrigerator, a stove, and a door that I assumed led to a bathroom. The old man stood motionless in front of me. "Get it," I said. He was shaking like a leaf on a tree, so he was struggling to lift the mattress up. I decided to make it easy. I handed him the bag, and I lifted the mattress with one hand. I kept the gun in my other hand, of course. The old man scraped all the money from under the mattress and stuffed it into the bag. When I was done, I told him that I was going to walk away and for him not to do anything stupid. He shook his head, still terrified. I made him sit on the bed, and I walked backwards out of the room. Once I was back in front of the store, I ran like my life depended on it. I got into my car and calmly drove away. I didn't stop until I was at my apartment. It's unfortunate that it had to happen that way. But like I said, Rob didn't have any boundaries, so he made me have to be a person that didn't have any boundaries either. I didn't want to rob that old man, but he was an easy target. I knew he was because Hot Boy had told me about him after we went to his store one time. Hot Boy had done some work for the old man some years back, and he got to know him pretty well. He told me that the old man had gotten drunk one day and let it slip that he lived in the back of his store and he refused to keep his money in the bank. As a joke, Hot Boy stated that he knew who he'd hit if he needed some fast money. We had both laughed it off at the time, but a year or so down the road, it really wasn't that funny. Unfortunately for the old man, I needed the money, and it was there. So, I got home and counted it. That old man had $7,334 under his mattress. Adding that with the $50 from the register, I got a total of $7,384 from him. Along with the money that I had in the bank, that brought my total up to $12,371. I needed $12,629 more. And that was Saturday. I spent the next few days pulling jobs, but I never hit a lick like that first one. I robbed a corner store in a neighboring county and got $3,341. I broke into an old electronics store after hours, thinking they'd have some money in there. They didn't have a dime in the cash register, but someone had left a purse in one of the offices. There was $187 in there. It was Tuesday, and I had $15,899. I needed $9,101 more. Wednesday, I went to an after-hours gambling spot in North Carolina. It wasn't exactly legal, so they didn't really have security and all that. I had been there a few times, and I knew dudes were always stumbling out of there drunk. My plan was to run up on somebody as they were entering their car. They'd be taken off guard and probably wouldn't have time to react. But it just so happens that I didn't even have to do all that. I was sitting in my car, waiting for an easy target. And then somebody pulled up beside me. He was driving a BMW, so I was thinking that he probably had some money. He was by himself, too. This is the dude I need to watch, I thought. He got out of his car and started locking the door. Suddenly, he fell to the ground. I jumped out of my car and ran towards him. He was having a seizure, I could tell. One of the dudes that I was locked up with had a seizure disorder. He used to look just like that. My first thought was to call for help. But then I thought, is that really what you want to do, Ken? I looked around. There was nobody out there. Nobody to see what was going on. So I ran his pockets. I took everything that was in there and got into my car. I saw a lady walking out of the building as I was exiting the parking lot. I told her that it looked like somebody needed some help. He was going to have to be somebody else's problem. I got home and counted the money. It was $2,500 even. I was on a roll for real. I woke up Thursday morning with $18,399. I needed $6,601 more. And if the rest of the week was an indication, I felt like I could get it. But I was finding less spots to hit. All of the places that I had gone to were known easy targets. I ain't have nothing left for real. So I had to brainstorm. How could I get $6,601 by Sunday? I really didn't know, and it was stressing me out. My back was up against the wall. And in any instance where I felt like things were out of my control, there was always a possibility that I was going to act impulsively. There was too much on the line for me not to figure it out. And then I found myself on the better side of luck again, and in the most unexpected of ways too. I was sitting at my kitchen table, thinking about how I could come up with the money. My phone rang and it was Pops. I ain't got time for this, I thought, so I didn't answer it. But he called right back. I thought maybe something might have been wrong, so I answered the phone. As soon as I picked it up, Pop asked if I was at home. Once he realized that I was in place, he told me that he was coming over. No further discussion. Pops jumped on it as, Ken, what's going on? And don't you lie to me. I asked what he was talking about, and I was being sincere. There was a lot going on. I just didn't know which thing he'd heard about. Come on now, said Pops. You know the streets be talking, and you know I be hearing. Word is, Rob had Mia dealt with because she ran off with some of this money. That means you lied when you told us that the kids were with her for spring break. Ain't no way. From what I heard, Mia been dead for like a week. And if she been dead, that means she hasn't been answering the phone when you called to talk to the kids. Ain't no way you gone a week without hearing from the kids and you ain't thought nothing about it. So that means you already knew Mia was dead. But the kids ain't with you. So where they at? Ugh. I thought a lot of things about Pops. But I ain't never think he was all that smart. That nigga put that together like nobody's business. And I couldn't really shut it down. He knew what he knew. And I didn't try to insult him by acting like he didn't. I told Pops everything. Mia wasn't the one who ran off with the money. It was Black. Mia ran off by herself because she was scared. When she didn't pay Rob the money, he had her killed. And because he had to pay somebody to do that, he wanted to be reimbursed. To make sure that I had a vested interest in doing that, he kidnapped the kids. He gave me 9 days to come up with $25,000. I had spent the whole week to that point robbing people. I was $6,601 short, and it was Thursday. Of all things to say, Pops asked, why you ain't come to me? I didn't even have to think about my answer. Why didn't I come to you? For what? You ain't never did nothing for me, not when it counted. If anything, all you did was take away. Why would I come to you? What you gonna do for me? Make me mad that you couldn't come through? I wasn't trying to be hurtful, but I meant that. I had a responsibility to save my kids' lives, and I was the only person that I really felt like I could depend on. If Kenny was alive, he would have had my back, and I knew it, but he wasn't alive. So that meant it was only me, certainly not Pops. I saw the look on Pop's face, and I could tell that he was bothered. I didn't have the time to soak that in. My kids' lives were on the line, and he was there whining about the fact that he ain't know about it. Look, said Pops. I know I haven't been there in the ways that I needed to be, and we can discuss that at some other time. But for now, We got to figure out how we going to get $6,600. So this is what I think. I be going to a little spot to gamble a couple of hours away. I know how to cheat the system a little bit, so I be hitting. I ain't never walked out of there with less than $5,000. I only go a couple of times a year because I don't want them to catch on to what I be doing. I say we go there in the morning. Give me a couple of hours, and I guarantee that we could get at least close. Whatever's left, we could scrape it up. Ken, I ain't going to tell you that I could do something that I can't do. Not on this. It's too important. You got to let me help. I wanted to scream. I didn't want Pops anywhere near the situation. But if I had to be honest, I was out of options. And when I thought about it, Pops most likely did have it in him to run a con. I hated that I had to do it, but for the first time in my life, I was going to have to trust Pops. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow Shenny Tells a Story on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to purchase books by Shandora Warren, they're all available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and some in hardback formats. Please like and follow this podcast and share it with your family, friends, and frenemies because all relationships matter, even the toxic ones. Thanks so much for helping me to create the world that I want to see. Oh yeah, you're welcome.